Hi guys, welcome to the Pixel Experience YouTube channel. So today we're going to talk a lot about alignment. Now I think for me, alignment and balance in design is probably the most important tools or elements that you can use to sort of make your designs look more polished and professional. Now, the great thing about Canva is that it really does have tools that just help you to create that alignment without thinking too much about it. The first tip that I'm going to show you is how to use margins to ensure that your images or your text or your design sort of are a little bit more cohesive. So you want to go to File, you want to go to Settings, and you want to click on Margins. So right away you see these like dotted edges or border, I would say, around your canvas. This really is just a guide to ensure that your text, especially if you're going to print this design, isn't falling off the edge. It's a little bit more, helps you to be a little bit more cohesive. And then also it sort of acts as a guide to where your most important detail of your design is going to be. So for us, you can sort of see right now that the Canva workshop, it sort of happens to be outside of these borders, which is not good. You sort of want anything that's important, anything that you possibly might print, to be within the margins. See the bullets outside of the margins, also some text outside of the margin, and it just makes it more apparent that the work isn't aligned in any way. So outside of the margins, there's another tip that you can use. Make sure that your designs are polished and just professionally looking. And that is just utilizing what you call guides. So you just want to go to File, Settings, and then you want to add guides. Already has pre-existing guides, so they have like 12 columns, 3 columns, a 3x3 grid, and that just basically telling you that your canvas or your page is split evenly in 3s vertically and 3s horizontally. It's spaced evenly. And you would want to sort of work within those basically guides. I'm going to customize my guides and I'm going to use a 2x2, and usually I work with a 0.13 gap, but I think for this, just to make it a little bit more easier to digest and less confusing, I'm just going to work with the gaps being 0. So we're going to add those guides. And as you can see, there's now like a center across, if you will. And that's just basically showing that the page itself is split in 4s evenly. Now that you have your lines and your margin, try and tidy this up to just make sure it's a lot more aligned and polished looking. And just easier on the eyes, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just actually have Canva be the center instead of it going, horizontal or across. I'm just gonna have Canva be like sort of the center focus. I'm gonna click on the text box and I'm actually going to use our tools bar here, and I'm going to click alignments. And I'm going to make sure that Canva in its own text box is already aligned in the center. I'm going to drag the workshop and I'm going to drag Canva to the center. Now what Canva does is once you get to the center, it sort of highlights this sort of very bright purple line. And you can see it's hitting the 4-point margin at the very top. So all you want to do is just ensure that that sort of margin is highlighted when you're trying to center anything. So there's another tip that you can use is you can just align to page and then you can center and it does it for you. So isn't that easy? I want to increase the font. Now I'm going to just right click, or I'm just going to click on the sides here, and I'm just going to increase the font by dragging. I'm just going to increase it a little bit more. And then, you have this huge text, right? I'm going to actually change it to bold, right? So now you hear the workshop. I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller, and I'm going to ensure that it's aligned because I do want it to be centered in terms of a text box. And I'm going to remember you can use the margin, how it creates this very bright purple or pink, it looks pinkish purple, I don't know, line. It just sort of highlights it for you once it's centered. Or if you want to just right click, and you can align page and click center, and then it does that for you. So I have that, and I'm going to actually let me just check if that's okay. That's bold. I'm gonna create like a little bit of an effect by using shadows, just to make that add a little bit more dimension, I guess, if you will. I'm gonna increase or lower the transparency so it's a little bit more transparent. And then I'm gonna actually just change the color of this to be yellow. I'm just gonna center the August the 13th again, and then I'm gonna also do center. I'm gonna do center, and I'm just gonna carry this up right under the workshop. I want this to be maybe like 16 or something. And then we're just going to make sure that it's centered. It is centered, so we can move on with our lives. And then we're going to have the text. Remember, not going outside of the margin points here. And I'm going to use sort of right or left align, I should say. I'm going to bring this down just to sort of help. So to just make sure that everything is right aligned, or left aligned, sorry. Yep, aligned. Okay. And then you just sort of want to like match it. So if it still looks a little bit off, you can actually select all and then sort of space evenly vertical. Right, so whenever I have like images or text like these, like bullet points, I always sort of try to group them. So I just basically click and then drag it to cover all of the areas that I want to group, and I just select group. So that way it like helps me to like move it as a whole instead of one by one, because that would take forever. So I'm just going to do that. All right, so we have our register now. We've made it a little bit smaller. I'm just going to make sure that it's centered. I'm actually just going to add sort of like an element, a shape, just to make it like pop a little bit more, since it's at the bottom and it's a very important detail. It's probably better. And I'm actually just going to group this just to, ensure everything is aligned. It is centered. I'm actually going to add this CANVA thing, making sure not to go outside of the margins. Actually going to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so now we've come to the end of this tutorial. I think we've actually did a pretty good job in terms of trying to ensure that there's alignment and balance with this design. You don't have to stop here. There's so many things that you could do to this design to make it a little bit more, visually appealing. You could change the background, you could add, some textures of the background to make it pop even more. I think this is pretty good in terms of the layout. If you found this helpful in any way, then you can give it a like. And if you want to see more, you can also subscribe and, leave a comment if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them. All right. Thank you very much.